This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City update for May 27th, 6 p.m. We continue to monitor the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. The Deepwater Horizon Office of Response and Restoration there's a link right here that goes to that page with all the latest information on where the spill is and where it's headed. And we also have a link to the National Weather Service right above the tracking chart from the office, from the New Orleans office, giving you the latest seas and wind forecast for the Gulf of Mexico. And the good news is it looks like there's going to be calm conditions for the next several days to allow them to continue capping this spill in the Gulf of Mexico and cleaning it up. But that may change in a couple of days, and I'll get to the reason why in just a minute. We also, Invest 90L is now off the map. The system remains disorganized. I'll get to that in just a minute as well. Our current feature is Grand Isle, Louisiana, right next to the tracking map, where you can zoom in on the areas around southeast Louisiana that are being impacted by the oil spill. And most importantly, you can watch the live webcam from the floor of the Gulf of Mexico right here by clicking on See It on TV, and it'll bring up our video feed. And here's what you'll see. And what makes this cam unique, there's several people streaming the cam on the internet, but this cam has the actual ticker showing how many gallons have leaked into the Gulf since the beginning of the rig blowing up in the Gulf of Mexico. And we're over 26 million gallons. Now this is a compromise between NOAA's assessment of 5,000 barrels a day, which is kind of ridiculous, and the other estimates from a lot of experts that have watched this flow saying that we may have as much as 1.5 million gallons a day leaking into the Gulf. So we've set it at 750,000 gallons, and that puts us over 26 million gallons spilled into the Gulf. And again, this is based on the flow, so part of that is oil and part of it is gas. So it's probably about half of this amount is oil. But we're going to continue to leave this ticker up there as long as we see these plumes of, right now it's mud coming out of these holes because they are beginning the top kill operation, and then it'll be followed by concrete. So you're going to watch to see if this stops. If this flow stops, it will have been successful. If it continues, we still have a problem because there is still oil mixed in with this, and we're still going to have problems in the Gulf of Mexico. So check that out, and we'll leave that up until the hurricane season kickoff show, which will start on June 1st. I'll get to that in just a minute. I want to apologize for everybody that tuned in this morning to the Atlantic Hurricane Season Outlook from NOAA. We were on there on the conference call right at 10 a.m. when it was supposed to start, and whoever was handling the phones did not patch through the broadcast to the listeners, and there were many people in the media that were left out of the conference for about 30 minutes. So we only caught the tail end of it, about the last 30 minutes. But in a nutshell, NOAA predicts 14 to 23 named storms. That's kind of a wide range there compared to Dr. Gray that's predicting 16. They're predicting 8 to 14 hurricanes, and 3 to 7 of those could become major hurricanes. So we'll have more on that on the Hurricane Season Kickoff show. That's on June 1st. And this show is, again, on hurricanecity.tv at 8 p.m. on June 1st. Now, on this show, we'll have some video from the Hurricane Center. We're going to be there on June 1st interviewing some of the forecasters, and we'll have some video and pictures to show you on the night of the show. And Derek Sibley was at the Florida Governor's Hurricane Conference, and he'll be up here with some of his picture and video from that as well. So we have a lot to show you from what the forecasters are saying, and we're going to take your phone calls, and of course I'm going to make my Hurricane City picks, the top 20 areas I think are going to be affected this year, and there may be some surprises on the list, and you'll have to tune in for that. I'm very concerned about certain areas of the Atlantic Basin this year, and I'm very confident of these picks going into this year. So tune in 8 p.m. Eastern Time on June 1st. Now here is the floater loop of the former Invest 90L naked swirl of clouds out here. And what you see, normally when you see a situation like this, you see how the center is right in here and all the convection's being blown off to the northeast. There's very high wind shear out here, and it's just not going to allow this to develop. This will head towards Bermuda and then out to sea. Nothing to be concerned about. But what is to be concerned about is the Invest here in the East Pacific, and this is the GFDL model you're looking at here. And what's interesting is going into next week, this has this going across the Central America and Yucatan and popping into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. Now there's a couple of other models. The GFS keeps it down in here, and the H-Wharf takes it more into the Caribbean Sea and towards Florida. But at any rate, whatever this does, if it gets up into the Gulf, this could create a little bit of wind and seas up in here, which would disrupt the oil cleanup operations and possibly cause more of a fetch of wind across here that could send it more to the east towards Florida. And this has it turning into a hurricane over here in the Pacific before crossing over, so it would be in a much weaker state. And the wind shear is very high out here, around 20, 30, 40 knots of wind shear, so nothing would develop in the Gulf, but it could still be a system that can bring some wind in here and disrupt the oil operations out here. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that for next week, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. Well, that's about it for now. Again, keep an eye on that cam at hurricanecity.com. The oil spill continues, and I'll let you know what happens with that. But more importantly, tune in June 1st for the Hurricane Season Kickoff Show at 8 p.m. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.